1996, General Motors introduced the EV1 electric car in California and Arizona. Hundreds of the electric cars were soon on the road, then they all disappeared. The mystery behind their disappearance, the subject of this documentary, Who Killed the Electric Car. We featured the documentary on Democracy Now! Last year, and we interviewed the filmmaker. In this clip, we start with Peter Horton, the actor, and then Tom Hanks is on Dave Letterman, and it goes from there.
There's nothing like driving a car where you realize as you're sitting in traffic, there's no pollution coming out of your tailpipe. You're just sitting there with batteries on.
By driving an electric car, what are you sparing us from?
I'm saving America, Dave. That's what I'm doing. I am saving America by driving an electric car.
That was Tom Hanks speaking on the David Letterman Show. Despite the praise from drivers, General Motors stopped manufacturing the cars and forced all drivers to return their EV1s. GM was able to do this because none of the cars had actually been sold, only leased. After the electric cars were removed from the road, they were sent to Arizona, where they were crushed.
We flew over General Motors, and looking down, we could see right next to the racetrack where the EV1 was first tested, we saw, I don't know, maybe 50 EV1s crushed and put on top of semi-flatbeds right next to the yellow crusher. General Motors is almost finished off. I imagine there's very many EV1s left that haven't been crushed down. It's pretty sad.
They're one of four things that will happen with the EV1s. They'll go to colleges and universities, engineering schools. They'll go to museums and other displays across the country. Other EV1 vehicles are being driven by our engineers, and the other option for the EV1s at the end of their life is recycling. But know that every part of the EV1 is going to be recycled, dismantled through a third party, and then reused. Everything is going to be recycled. We're not just going to crush it and send it off to a landfill.
When I saw the picture of the pile of crushed cars, it hurt, and I thought it was pretty spiteful.
To see on the, on the computer, on the internet, the crushed EV1s that GM did.
It was wrong. It was wrong.
Tragic.
An excerpt of Who Killed the Electric Car by Chris Payne, the filmmaker. Robert Kuttner, could you imagine if the CEO of GM, instead of coming with the other CEOs of Chrysler and Ford in a private jet, came in an electric car? Of course, though, he couldn't because GM killed the electric car.
You know, that film is one of the most profound documentaries of our time, and GM was actually ahead of Toyota. We're now working our way back towards a plug-in electric car via modified hybrids, but they had the technology 12, 14 years ago, and you can't make this stuff up. The patent for the battery that made possible the EV1 was bought by ExxonMobil just so that it would never be utilized again. I think that's why in restructuring the auto industry, you've got to get rid of these executives. It's not just enough to throw money at them. And it just gives you a sense of how profound the challenge is. And, just analogizing this to Bob Rubin for a second, in a country where market capitalism has as much power as it does in the United States, whether the villain of the piece is GM or whether the villain of the piece is Bob Rubin and Citigroup, it's bigger than any one person. It's a system that you have to fight, and it's a mark of the power, the residual power of the system, that even when the system has come to a crisis of its own making, and you have a president as attractive and as intelligent as Barack Obama, the institutional pressures to reappoint the same scoundrels are overwhelming. And it's only when Obama looks over the cliff of the failure of his own administration because he has not thought boldly enough that he may change his plans and move in a more radical direction. But so far, the direction that he's moved in, whether it's on taxing rich people, whether it's on restructuring the auto industry, whether it's on re-regulating Wall Street, is disappointing. The same thing was true at the beginning of the Roosevelt administration. And all you can do is hope that pressure from folks like us, pressure from ordinary people and from social movements, and pressure from the dire circumstances that we face will push the administration into a more progressive direction.